Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 860. Wednesday, August the 7th, 2019. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, well it is Wednesday, so of course I'll be taking out the trash and having me some chicken. Every Wednesday, I take out the trash and have some chicken. That's right. Okay, let's go ahead and get to the news of the day. Let's see here. We have Tony Shaffer, former lieutenant colonel in the intelligence business, now retired, works for a private think tank. We have Tony Shaffer. He's on One America News Network, and he is telling, I think it was Jack Posobiec, that he's hearing that indictments are coming for the coup plotters. He says that specifically the charges will be coming as a result of misleading the FISA court. Well, that's certainly one of the major areas where there's a problem, where there were crimes committed, is based on the information we have now. There's a lot of information we don't have, but just based on what we have in the public record, what we've been hearing members of Congress who've seen some of these documents, certainly it appears that the FISA court was lied to by all of the individuals who signed off on the FISA warrants, and that would include, of course, James Comey signing off on the first one, Rodenstein signing off on the last one. Of course, we had another 7, 8 people, I think a total of 8 or 9 people that signed off on those FISA warrants. So, yes, that is certainly one thing that could, and that's not just one crime. There's probably multiple violations within that one bit of activity regarding the FISA court. But there are other larger issues. There's probably lying to investigators. There is probably abuse of power. There is issues with putting the spies into the Trump campaign, trying to rig an election, obstructing investigations. There's a lot of crimes associated with 3 really different things. Number one, exonerating the rotten Reverend Clinton and obviously obstructing justice, destroying evidence, various things involved in rigging or fixing the Hillary Clinton email investigation. That's one major issue, and there's probably multiple crimes, multiple people involved in those crimes. Then there's the issue of trying to interfere in the election, trying to stop Trump from being elected by running the operations against him, this counterintelligence operation against him, people on his team. There are multiple crimes involved with that, multiple individuals, many of the same ones who were involved in the first crime of fixing the Hillary Clinton investigation. Then, of course, there's the third part of that, which is Trump wins, therefore, because they were unsuccessful in the second part of their crime, they were unsuccessful, so then Trump's elected, so then they have to stage a palace coup. And there's, again, multiple crimes, multiple people, again, many of the same people involved in the first 2 parts of the crime. So you really have 3 different, parts of this overall major crime and conspiracy. There are many people involved in it, and of course criminal conspiracy is a charge into itself, which can have many crimes, underlying crimes within it. So there are many, many crimes of many different areas, and certainly lying to the FISA court, misleading the FISA court, however you want to word it, would certainly be one of those crimes. And I do not see how these perps are going to get away with it. I cannot imagine that Attorney General Barr and Mr. Durham investigating this are going to be able to let this slide, I guess, for lack of a better term. I just don't know how you could do that and expect people to have any confidence at all in law enforcement, the FBI, the DOJ, the intelligence community, any of these things. People are going to have to be held accountable here. It's too big of a crime. Too many people know what happened. There's too much evidence that's in the that's out there. The president's not going to stand for it. His supporters not going to stand for it. And if Barr is true to his word and what he said in his hearings, in his confirmation hearings, then I think I just cannot imagine that the perps are going to escape justice. I just don't know how that could possibly happen under the circumstances with the overwhelming amount of evidence that we have. So we'll, of course, keep watching here, but I do believe that we're going to have a pretty good idea once the Horowitz report comes out, because that's going to talk about the FISA stuff. I expect there will be, and we're hearing there will be, criminal referrals from the Inspector General Huckleberry Horowitz report, and if he points out the violations and makes further criminal referrals, which he's already made other criminal referrals, just they haven't been acted upon, but if he makes criminal referrals and it has to do with lying to the FISA court, and we're told that that is not a big enough crime to go after, or if they don't have a solid enough case that they think that they could win, then at that point I'm going to start seriously questioning Attorney General Barr and exactly what the hell is going on. But I'm not going to jump the gun at this point. I'm going to keep my powder dry and just say at this point that Tony Shaffer is not saying anything that we're not hearing from various other people. And these people never name names. They just say, "Oh, I'm hearing from my sources," but they never really tell us who their sources are. I don't know who his sources are. So, I like Tony Shaffer. But a lot of people are saying these things are going to happen, but so far we're not seeing anything happening. Are we? A wise man once told me, believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. Half of what you see and none of what you hear. I'm waiting for the evidence. When I see Comey in cuffs, Peter's been stroking us in cuffs, Luce Lisa Page in cuffs, Bruce and Nellie in cuffs, Loretta Lynch in cuffs, Silly Sally Yates in cuffs, right along with Barack Hussein Obama. When I see them in cuffs, then I'll know something's happening. Until then, I'll be a skeptic. Judicial Watch has obtained records of 14 referrals of FBI officials for leaking sensitive or classified information. Only 4 of the 14 were fired. 4 of 14. That's not very good. That's not very good. 4 of 14 for leaking sensitive or classified information. Now, firing should be automatic. That should be 14 out of 14. Automatic. None of them, as far as I know, have gone to jail. Sensitive or classified information leaks. Plenty of people go to jail for leaking classified information. These individuals intentionally leaked classified information for the purpose of affecting a presidential campaign, or even worse, trying to carry out a palace coup. So it's not just that they leaked the classified information, it's the reason they leaked, the motive, their intent. Their intent. What was their intentions by leaking the classified information? So obviously, 14 out of 14 should have absolutely been fired, because you really can't do your job at the FBI or DOJ or intelligence community if you're in jail, which is where these people should have been. It's where you and I would be. Do you see the problem here? I think you do. Peter's been stroking us. We talked about him yesterday, about the fact that he's been seen around the FBI. He apparently has a badge to get in the door. He still apparently has a security clearance. Apparently this has been going on for a few weeks, and now we know. Because today we learn that Peter's been stroking us has filed a lawsuit against the FBI and the DOJ over his firing. He wants his job back, and he wants back pay. His lawyers are arguing several things, but primarily that Peter's been stroking us was fired unlawfully for using his protected political speech under the First Amendment. What are we to make of this? What are we to make of this? Well, I've given this some thought. This is not something new, really. Okay, So when we find out who the lawyers are representing Peter's been stroking us, we can see that these three lawyers are from the Lawfare Group. The Lawfare Group. And we know that Peter's been stroking us was fired a year ago. And of course, prior to that, of course, he was an FBI agent. He doesn't have the kind of money that you would need to pay, especially since he's been fired for nearly a year now. He wouldn't have the kind of money you would need to hire these type of high-profile DC lawyers. These are like, multi-thousand-dollar-a-day lawyers. Peter's been stroking us would be bankrupt in a week trying to pay these guys. So clearly, he's not paying for this legal defense. So he's been at the FBI building and the building across the street with DOJ and FBI officials over the past couple weeks. What do you think he's been doing? Well, now I think it's obvious what he was doing. Before he could pursue a lawsuit, and he's being coached totally by the Lawfare Group, who are behind the coup, by the way. And they probably told him that they need his help, and in return, they would help him. He doesn't have the money to pay these types of lawyers, so they probably told him they would provide free legal defense for him, and would even file a case on his behalf. But before he can go and file a lawsuit to get his job back and go for back pay, which is not going to happen, by the way. I can't imagine. Even in a D.C. court, I don't think you could get this done. It's just ridiculous. So what is the game here? If he has probably a 1% chance of winning a lawsuit like this based on the evidence and the facts, then why would he file this lawsuit? And what was he doing at the FBI for the past couple weeks? Well, okay, I think it's pretty obvious. He was jumping through all the hoops you have to jump through administratively to try to get his job back. He was appealing through the process you go through at the FBI and DOJ when you've been fired and you think you've been wrongfully fired. You go through various processes. There's probably a couple different organizations, government organizations or whatever, that you have to petition your case to. And only after you've exercised those avenues can you then, and failed, can you actually go through the legal process. So my guess is the past couple weeks he has been going through the administrative process and trying to get his job back, knowing good and well that's not going to happen, so that he could get to the point where he can now say, okay, I've exercised all the administrative possibilities, so now I have no choice but a legal form of relief, a lawsuit. Knowing good and well this lawsuit, I mean, the people at Lawfare know this. They probably coached Peter's been stroking us all the way through this. And they really need Peter's been stroking us. They need someone they can use to file a lawsuit. And Peter's been stroking us is a good choice. So he needs them because he can't afford lawyers like them. He really can't do anything for himself. He'd like to get some good PR going if he can. Maybe he thinks it'll help influence a jury or something. I don't know. But I know why Lawfare wants Peter's been stroking us to use him as the straw man to file a lawsuit. This is something that's done pretty regularly, quite honestly. It's a dirty legal tactic, but it's used. So Lawfare wants to use Peter's been stroking us in filing this lawsuit, in my opinion. They want that because if they can file a lawsuit in this particular case, they're hoping that that will allow them in the discovery process to get access to, because they'll be requesting documents. They'll be requesting documents from Barr and Durham's investigation, and probably Mueller's investigation, and probably Horowitz's investigation. They'll be requesting all sorts of information, evidence, whatever you want to call it, for their defense of Peter's been stroking us. And by getting a hold of all this information, it will help them to better provide information to the lawyers who are going to be representing Comey and Yates and probably Peter's been stroking us and Luce Lisa Page and Andy McCabe and all these players, Bruce and Nellie, Brennan, Clapper, Lynch. All these people are seriously nervous right now because they all know that the noose is tightening and they don't like being in the dark. Their attorneys, many of them probably who come out of the Lawfare blog community, a lot of these Lawfare attorneys all kind of stick together. They're not just coming from one law firm. They're lawyers from multiple left-wing law firms from around the country who participate or are part of this lawfare group. So these are probably the lawyers that the perps are going to be using. And these lawyers probably got together and said, man, we need to find out what they got. We need to find out what Durham's got. We need to find out what Barr's got. We need to find out what Horowitz has got. We need to find out what Mueller had. We need to find all this stuff out. So basically, they're going to try to use Peter's been stroking us to get evidence so they'll know what the evidence is that's going to be used against their other clients, as well as Peter's been stroking us, so that they can hopefully do a better job of defending their clients. They want to know what the government knows, and that's probably the legal tactic that's being used here, and that's probably the reason for it. It's the only thing I can think of, because this idea that Peter's been stroking us is going to get his job back is ludicrous. It's a frivolous suit, at the very least. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets thrown out. So the only thing I can think of here is that these lawfare people who are the people named as being Strzok's attorneys, who he could never afford otherwise, they're obviously working for free, which they don't do unless they have a reason. I think that what they want is to get a peek at the evidence that's going to be used against their other clients, including Peter's been stroking us. That would be my guess. That would be my guess. Obama-appointed Judge Amy Berman Jackson. We hear a lot about Amy Berman Jackson, don't we? She's the one who put Manafort through a lot of hell. She's the one that's dragging Roger Stone through the wire and cut glass right now. That's who this judge is. She should be thrown off the bench. She's a total political activist in a robe. Obama Judge Amy Berman Jackson has dismissed one of the two charges against former White House counsel to the Obama administration, Greg Craig. Craig was, remember, a grand jury found that Greg Craig was guilty of making false statements, and he was guilty in his actions regarding Ukrainian lobbying efforts. Those two things. Now, what charge Amy Berman Jackson has thrown out, I'm not sure. They didn't specify. But she has thrown out one of two charges. And the charges are coming as a result of a grand jury finding that Greg Craig should be prosecuted for making false statements, lying, and also activities regarding his activities in Ukrainian lobbying efforts. So we'll see how that goes. But it's just, he's doing the exact same thing that Manafort was doing. In fact, working with Manafort on this particular thing. It's funny when you look at what Manafort's been through and how he was treated, and then you look at Greg Craig, a former Obama administration White House counsel with an Obama-appointed judge. He gets kid glove treatment. Manafort and Stone get, everything thrown at them. Hardcore. Man, oh man, we got to fix this. It's got to be fixed, man. You can't continue to go on in this country having such a separate system of justice. I mean, rich people get off, poor people get hammered. Democrats get off, Republicans get hammered. This is not going to work. It's not working for me right now. Okay? It's not working for me. Well, what do we have here? It looks like Comrade de Blasio. This is information I'm about to give you is from the latest poll coming out of New Hampshire. The latest poll coming out of New Hampshire. It appears that Comrade de Blasio is sitting at 0%, and he's not alone. 0% of people, Democrats in New Hampshire, would support de Blasio. That means not first choice, not second choice, or third choice. They give him three choices. Not a single person, not a single Democrat in New Hampshire would support de Blasio, the comrade, de Blasio, for either first, second, or third choice. That's bad. He needs to go back to New York and fix the rat problem. It's infested with rats and a lot of other things. Liberals, mainly. Maybe they should get rid of the liberals. Let the rats stick around. The rats do a lot less damage than the liberals. Let's see. Also, Mike Gravel is sitting at 0%. He's in nobody's top 3 choices, and he's now thrown his support behind Commie Bernie. Jay Inslee is also sitting at 0%. Nobody wants to vote for him either. Seth Moulton, don't even know who the hell that is. Tim Ryan, he's also sitting at 0%. He's not anywhere near radical enough for the liberals, and he's way to the left of me, folks. And he's a pain in the ass. He's an Ohio congressman. Can't stand that guy. Total partisan hack. Can't stand him. Of course, he's also the guy who tried to pull off a couple of behind-the-scenes coups against Nancy Pelosi back in 2017, 2018. So he's not real popular in the party, obviously, and he's kind of a man with nowhere to go. He's not liberal enough for the liberals, and he's far, far too liberal to be a Republican. So I don't really know where people like him fit in. My guess is they don't. Someone's going to be purged out of the Democratic Party in this upcoming election cycle in 2020. The question is who? Are they going to purge the so-called moderates? And he's not that moderate, like Tim Ryan. Or are they going to purge the radical communists? That's basically the biggest story of 2020. Trump's going to win. The question is, what happens to the Democratic Party? Does it go totally commie left, or do they eradicate, get rid of the commies, and try to restore the party back to some sense of just normal crazy liberals? We'll find out. The skateboarder, Bobby O, is also doing like around. He's barely cracking 2%. He's doing really badly. He's always been doing really badly, and probably that little interview he gave day before yesterday probably sunk him forever for any political office. I don't know if you saw that little press conference, but he was asked to comment on the El Paso shootings, and he's a former congressman from El Paso, and he literally laughed. He laughed. And then, after laughing, he tried to recover himself, realizing what a huge mistake he just made, but it just didn't go over very well. It looks really, really bad. If you haven't seen the video, I urge you to YouTube it. Beto O'Rourke laughs about El Paso shooting. Watch the video. I shit you not. It's actually quite disturbing and quite a bit creepy, to be honest with you. So there you go. Now, the same exact poll that I'm referring to, this New Hampshire poll that just came out, has Biden, but he has now dropped down to 21.4%. He's still the front runner, but now he's down to 21.4%. So he enters the race. Even before he entered the race, he was in the high 30s. He enters the race and he goes down to the mid 30s. He holds on to the mid 30s, drops down to the low 30s after the first debate where legs in the air Harris put a whooping on him. He started to recover a little bit, but now he's fallen down to the low 20s. He is now at 21.4. So that means he's, 21.4%. He's still the front runner. And now it looks like Commie Bernie has moved into second place in New Hampshire. It's 16.8%. So Biden at 21.4, Bernie at 16.8, and Warren in third place at 13.6. Although she and Bernie are almost identical on the issues, it's hard to separate them apart. They're almost every issue, they're about the same place. If you total them two together, you come up with about 30 points. So the people who support the ideology of Warren and Sanders have 10% more support than Joe Biden. Biden at 21.4, Bernie at 16.8, Warren at 13.6. But if you total Warren and Bernie together, because it's the same people, they have the same policies. So naturally, if one of them dropped out, the other one will pick up all that person. Now, they're not going to drop out. Bernie can stay in as long as he wants because he's self-funded, and Warren is still the in a high enough position that unless she does something really stupid, she will likely be in one of the top slots. So she's not going anywhere. So this shows you right now that the extreme far left are winning the fight. Biden represents the centrist, 21%. 21%. That means everybody else has got to be to the left of Biden. I don't think he's going to make it. I really don't. He goes from the upper 30s down to the mid 30s, then to the low 30s. Now he's in the very low 20s, 21.4. One more debate and he'll be in the teens. Another debate after that, or a couple weeks, and a few more gaffes after that, he'll be down in the low teens, and that's it. He can't stay in the race. Biden could not drop below the high teens. If he drops below 16, 17, 18, he can't recover. He doesn't have the tools to recover. It's not like everybody knows Biden. They know where his positions are. It's not like Biden can. He's just not someone who can turn it around or whatever. I mean, the only way that Biden could hang on to this thing is if he was just blowing everybody out and stayed blowing everybody out. He cannot recover from going down. There's no way for him to recover. He can only go one direction, and he continues to go that direction, and it continues to be down. And once he gets down into the mid to upper teens, the rotten Reverend Clinton sitting there like a vulture, waiting to pounce on his carcass and pick at the bones. Believe me, she's sitting on that branch right now like a vulture, watching Biden collapse, just waiting for the perfect time. She's probably got a plan to make sure to set the whole final act into motion of running Crazy Joe out of the event. That's my guess. Believe it or not. Oh, and by the way, we have Harris in fourth place at 8%. Legs near Harris at 8%. So she obviously took a hit in the last debate. That glass jaw she's got. And of course we have Marianne Williamson in New Hampshire. She's actually beating. She's at 1.5%. She's actually ahead of Booker, Gabbard, and Gillibrand. Gillibrand should drop out. She's only embarrassing herself at this point. Booker, Gabbard, and Gillibrand are getting beat by Marianne Williamson. That'd be so embarrassing. I would definitely get out. That's just embarrassing. Speaking of Cory Booker, we have Cory Booker demanding all Trump rallies be canceled because it's a breeding ground for racism. This guy's an idiot. Of course, you already knew that. Okay. Well, we're now about a year into this law in New York City where they're past the $15 an hour minimum wage, and the results are now in, and it appears that New York restaurants are seeing spiking prices, job losses, hour cuts, and just general bad things happening in that industry. A lot of restaurants in New York suffering. They're just not able to make it. The $15 an hour thing is not going over very well, and Comrade de Blasio's commune there in New York City is not going very well with the $15 an hour, and of course none of us needed to wait for the results to know that. We knew that even before, so just proving once again it's just bad policy. It just doesn't work, does it? Biden says he's coming for your assault weapons. Coming for your assault weapons. Well, I don't have any assault weapons, so I guess I'm good. First of all, Biden or anyone should just walk into a gun store and go into the gun store and ask the first guy you come up to, the guy behind the counter, tell him you want to buy an assault weapon, or look at some assault weapons, and look at the look on his face when you tell him you want to see some assault weapons. They don't actually sell any assault weapons because there's no such thing as an assault weapon. We have semi-automatic, fully automatic. That's your choice. Well, the rotten Reverend Clinton's going to team up with her satanic offspring, the offspring that occurred between, I believe, the rotten Reverend and Webster Hubble. That would be Chelsea Hubble. So it looks like the rotten Reverend and Chelsea Hubble are going to get together and write a book, which they're going to call Gutsy Women. Gutsy Women. Gutsy Women. A new book coming out by the Right Reverend Clinton and Chelsea Hubble. That's interesting. A book release at this point. I wonder why the Right Reverend Clinton will be wanting a book release right about now. That's curious. Looking ahead at 2020, it's obvious if you look as we're heading through these debates and looking into the fall season, and eventually we'll be heading into the primaries for the Demo-commies, it's pretty obvious that the two primary overriding issues of their platform is going to be based on racism and identity politics. These are big fat losers. If the Democrats try to run against Trump on racism and identity politics, they will lose probably 43 to 44, 45 states. So I hope they do. I'm just getting sick of it. I don't know if I can put up with it much longer, but it's a loser, so I guess I hope they keep doing it, but it's just, you get tired of it every day. He's a racist, they're a racist, he's a racist. I mean, it's played itself out, man. I mean, it's overplayed to death. And the identity politics has never really worked. The only thing identity politics will do will cause the house to be conquered from within. It will cause a divide from within, because when you've exhausted pointing the finger at other people, pretty soon you start pointing the finger at each other within your own group, and pretty soon the group itself is infighting amongst itself. It's a guaranteed disaster. It's a recipe for disaster for whoever practices this, and right now it's the Demo-commie Party that's doing this. So good. Anything they can do to destroy that party would be, I support 100%. So the noose is tightening on the perpetrators. If you remember, I did a video, I've talked about it quite a few times, on which video specifically, but several videos I've talked about this, which I said the three key players in all this that will unravel the whole thing and blow the entire conspiracy apart is when you get the truth about Mifsud, Halper, and Downer. And so now we have two of the three. We have Mifsud, who's now given a deposition, and we basically know what's in the deposition because Stephen Rowe, his friend, attorney, and former business partner, wrote a book. And in the book, he says that basically Mifsud is a cooperator of Western intelligence. He also says that he was working for and cooperating with Western intelligence on this little operation on Papadopoulos, and even says in the book that it was Vincenzo Scotti, who is the one who told Mifsud to plant the dope on Papadopoulos. Keep in mind, Scotti is a former intelligence official from Italy, also was an elected politician in Italy. So now, I guess Barr and Durham will be wanting to talk to Mr. Scotti and find out who asked him to ask Mifsud to drop the dope on Papadopoulos. We also have Halper. And of course, now we know that there is a transcript of the conversation where Halper tries to cajole Papadopoulos into accepting or being happy or willing to accept help from the Russians. And we know that from what we're hearing is that Papadopoulos told him to go to hell and then never bring that up again. It was treason. So he blew up Halper. So now Halper is being scrutinized very closely. And the fact that he was being paid by a agency within the DOD and exactly how that was all tangled up, that's being looked at. And that leaves poor Alexander Down the Hatch Downer out on a limb all by himself. The other two have been blown up now, and that only leaves Downer. And we know he was a part of the trifecta. Yesterday, Papadopoulos tweeted a photo of Downer and Halper at some function just 1 week before they began running the frame up on him. So we know that Downer and Halper are in cahoots. And the only person now who hasn't had to come out and tell the truth and be outed is Downer. We expect that any time. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll be back to speak with you again tomorrow about the bullshit, the coup. Alrighty, guys, have a good night. See you. Bye.